All right, let's have a conversation about chapter 3 of Tom Hougaard's Best Loser Wins. Okay, this was one of the most impactful chapters. Okay, this one I read several times. My first read through, pretty sure I read through a couple times as well on my second, and now my third. Okay, I've only read through once, but I'm telling you, I need to do it again. Okay, the need to be right. All right, I've talked about this in my other videos. This is something that impacts me. I have this thing about me that I just need to be right. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like some hidden ego thing, but whatever. Like for real, okay? The need to be right. So let's go over chapter 3. In chapter 3, Tom dives into the most dangerous psychological tendencies a trader can have. All right, the need to be right. He explains this desire can so deeply is so deeply ingrained in human behavior, it can sabotage trading performance and more than almost anything else. Okay, seriously, this one speaks to me very, very, very personally. Okay, I didn't even realize I had it either. It's like, man, it's like, because I would feel it. I mean, I would take a loss and it would be a good loss. But boy, like the emotion that came with that, oh my word. Anyway, okay, so being right feels good and it feeds the ego. But in the markets, this need can lead to stubbornness, denial, and catastrophic losses. Okay, let's talk about this for 1 second. How many of you guys, if you took out your catastrophic losses, the ones that you know you shouldn't take, those trades that were FOMO, revenge, whatever, right? If you took those out, how close to profitability or how profitable would you become? All right, think about that. I'm telling you, this guy knows what he's talking about. All right, Tom makes it clear professional traders don't aim to be right all the time. They aim to be profitable over time. Don't treat every trade as if that trade is going to define you on that day. Okay? Don't take every trade so seriously that you're not able to accept a loss. Okay? Most professional traders that I know who have hit 7 figures, okay, and I know a handful of them, okay, I know four, five personally that I have talked to. 7 figure traders. They all close between 50 and 70%. Okay. So they're losing half their trades or almost half their trades. That's a lot of losses. And if you take losses and those losses spin you out of control, it's not good. Okay. That's what happened to me when I allowed this recent losing streak I was on that really threw me back into this book. It was because I was allowing my greed. Actually, let me. Okay, I was allowing my ambition to fuel my greed, which took my greed index and blew it off the charts. Not Lambo, not Rolex, not Gucci greed, right? It was ambition. Okay, it was ambition to provide. It was ambition to provide for my family. It was things like that. But I allowed that to fuel my greed. Serious losing streak. Okay. And I had to take a step back. And now I'm back. I'm pulling a payout. I'm actually waiting for it to be processed. That's why I'm not trading. Actually, at the moment, I'm waiting for the prop firm to send me my 50% of my account. And I know if I trade and I get my loss that I'm supposed to, right? Like, because you're going to take losses, it would mess up the math and blah, blah, blah. And I wouldn't be able to get the payout. And I'm not doing it. I'm waiting it. I'm waiting for it. Okay. So just seriously, you got to be willing to be wrong and without taking it personal and without it hitting your ego. All right. So, all right, let's keep going. All right, let's just read this again. Tom makes it clear professional traders do not aim to be right all the time. They aim to be profitable over time. Don't let that one trade define you, okay? Let the last 50 or 100 trades define you, all right? And if you're shooting a little low and you're closing 30, 40% and you're not really profitable, well, that's good. Let's take a look at that, 30, 40%, the 70% losses, and let's figure out what's going on. Or is it your strategy that needs to be tweaked or is it you? All right. So Hougaard points out that the marketplace is a place of uncertainty and probability, not of certainty and correctness. Okay. Traders who seek certainty or confirmation before taking action are doomed to hesitate. If you're waiting for confirmation on confirmation on confirmation on confirmation so you can be right 95% of the time, this is not for you. Okay. You'll miss opportunities and you'll make emotional decisions because you're going to be attached to that trade, and then you're going to look back and go, oh, well, if I had just done this and had this confirmation, that trade would have won. No, 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 no. Don't do it that way. I'm telling you. Do it with 10 trades, 50 trades, okay? 100 trades. That's what you want to look at over time. And you want a simple strategy. Okay. My strategy that I've taught on this channel has actually even been simplified a little bit more, which was already pretty simplified. You know, I've had a lot of people reach out to me, well, what about this? And what about that? And ICT said this. And it's like, yeah, man, that stuff works. But when you combined everything that ICT teaches or everything that Market Cipher has to offer as far as data, or everything that, you know, CryptoKitty has and CryptoVac and, you know, all these different, I mean, when I'm telling you, when you talk to them, they're not using every single data point to make decisions. They have a very clear cut, easy to use strategy. All right. So simplify it and then run it for 100 trades. All right. All right. This chapter illustrates how clinging to trades just to prove oneself right leads to emotional attachment. That's kind of what I was talking about, where you're emotionally attached to this one trade. Okay. I've talked to people and they're like, man, I took a loss. My day is ruined. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, dude, I'm on my third loss in a row over 2.5 days or 3 days or whatever, or 3 losses that day. Yeah, I'm not happy, but I'm not allowing it to affect me, right? Anyway, so don't have an emotional attachment to a handful of trades, right? Have an emotional attachment to your overall process. You know, be like, oh, I took a loss. Well, did I follow my process? I did. All right. Well, good for me. High five, gold star for me today. I get a W. I'm calling today a W because I took a loss that was in my process and I did it correctly and I did not FOMO and I did not revenge trade. Okay. Those are the W's you need to go for. All right. Leads to emotional attachment, which overrides objective decision making, and the cost of being wrong is manageable if a stop is used, right? So when you're wrong, you're wrong. You have a stop. That's what that's for. The cost of being wrong is manageable if a stop is used. The cost of needing to be right is often devastating. Okay. So if you're wrong, your stop will get hit. So what? You move on. The cost of needing to be right, which was me, okay, is devastating. It often leads to serious FOMO. You know, instead of taking the 2 trades that were in your process for the day, you take 6 because you're revenge trading on revenge trading. You're FOMOing, okay? Once you ignite that emotional spark, you need to back out, okay? I mean, that's something I do. When I feel the tenseness and the sweatiness in my hands and the jitteriness and then, like, you know, that pit in your stomach, when I feel that, I'm done. I will walk away because I'd rather take my $800 loss because of the 2 revenge trades I took and the 1 trade that was wrong, and I walk away. I'd rather take that than blow the account. Okay. So he urges traders to reframe their mindset. Instead of asking, am I right? They should be asking, did I follow my system? Okay. If you follow your system, give yourself a big fat W for the day. Okay. If you didn't revenge trade and you didn't FOMO, fat W for you. Gold star. I'm not joking, like for real. Okay. A good trader, Tom emphasizes, is one who follows the process over pride. Okay. All right. Another thing I want to talk about super fast is do not come to the markets when you're having a bad day so you can feel better. All right. Think about that. Do not come to the markets when you're having a bad day so you can feel better, because W's feel good. Okay. But if you're coming to the market for that W and you don't get it, that's that emotional attachment. You were expecting the market to help you feel better. You were looking forward to making money or looking forward to that W so you can feel good. Okay. And then you don't get it, it's going to override your objective decision making. And I'm telling you, I've done this. I've done this. Okay. I've had a rough day. I've been like, I need to do this. I need to be right. I need to feel good. Come to the market and just get absolutely obliterated because it didn't give me what I wanted. Okay. All right. Okay. Follow the process over pride. All right. And don't use the market for healing, emotional healing. All right. I know that seems silly, but I'm telling you, I've worked with a lot of traders that this is a thing and they don't even realize it. All right. This chapter encourages traders to separate self-worth from the outcomes and treat each trade as probability-based decision rather than a personal bet on correctness. Okay. All right. So I get asked this a lot. People send me a screenshot. Why didn't this trade work out? I don't know. Like, it didn't, because it's probability. It's like throwing dice down a table and go, well, why didn't I get the numbers I wanted? Because it's random chance. Okay. I know the markets aren't completely random. There is a flow to the market. I do believe in liquidity. I believe in market makers, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So with the proper process that we create and trust and believe in, we can have an edge on the market and make money. We can tilt that probability into our favor. Okay. But if I'm looking at it as a personal bet on, am I correct? That's emotional, guys. That's emotional. A lot of people don't realize that. That is emotional. That's an emotional attachment to your process. I'm going to make a bet right now that the market's going to go down because I see all of these confluences. Guys, I have seen every single confluence for a short. Every single one of them. It's like, this market's going down. You bet short, what does it do? Pumps through the roof because everybody else saw the same thing and everybody went short. And what does the market maker do? Thank you for your donation. Pumps it up. Okay. All right. So, do not bet on your correctness. Okay. Find a process that is simple and easy for you to understand and use and identify in the market, not only in back testing, but in forward testing as well. Right. Like, okay. So for example, sweep a liquidity, a time-based liquidity, London high, sweep London high. I want to short London high after the sweep. So I wait for a bearish entry model. Got my bearish entry model, take my short, and then I'm going to be like, let's see what the market does. Because I could very easily be wrong. But per my experience of back testing, I should be right 65+% of the time. With a 2-to-1, at least, sometimes a lot more. That's good. Or 50% of the time with a 1-to-3, right? All this stuff makes money. All right. But I got to be willing to be wrong. And when I am wrong, okay, I do have ways to flip my own bias now, and things like that, and maybe take a long within my system. Okay. So that is trusting in the system and not betting on confluences, right? But if that's repeatable for me and I've tested it and I can forward test it and it's something I can see in the market, that's really the point I was trying to make, is if I can see that all the time, sweep, liquidity, entry model, go short, aim here at this liquidity. Is that a good enough R&R? This is what I'm seeing. Dude, guys, there's times that the market just like completely, it like sweeps liquidity and it just like dumps. And I'm like, man, my R&R would be like, risk $500 to make $350. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let that trade go. Like, I missed that one. Didn't give me an entry model in time. It showed me one, but my stop loss would have to be 3 times as big as it should be. So I'm going to let that trade go. Okay. But that's following my process over pride. It's following my process over, I'm going to miss out on a trade. And I say this stuff tongue in cheek, but guys, I truly feel the same stuff. Okay. Like right now, actually, because I requested a payout Friday. Okay. And they haven't paid me out yet. And I've never not had a Top Step payout. I know they're going to pay me out. But for some reason, It still hasn't gone through yet. I'm just waiting. They haven't processed it. They sent me the email saying, hey, good job. This is what it's all about. Woohoo. You know, and they're like, we'll send you the information, once we get it processed. I'm still waiting. Okay. So I didn't trade Monday. I haven't traded today. And I'm feeling a little bit of FOMO. I'm like, oh man, I kind of watched some of my other buddies make some money, and I could risk it. And then if I lose a trade, I know I'm going to freak out because I'm like, well, that's going to cancel my request for payout because I did request pretty much like 48% of the account. I want it back, right? So, and if I lose, even just a couple $100, it's going to mess up that process. So when they do hit the button to process my payout, it's going to say, I'm sorry, you've asked for more than 50% of the account. Okay, I know how this works because I've done this in the past. All right, so I don't do it anymore. Once I request a payout, I don't trade again until it hits my bank account. All right. But I still feel the FOMO. So don't think that, experienced traders don't feel these things. Now, I'm not some, 7-figure trader. Goodness gracious, not yet. I would sure love to be. I'm actually trying to work on becoming that 6-figure trader. Okay. But I'm connected to these guys and they feel the same thing. Okay. The FOMO doesn't ever go away. You just learn to recognize it and deal with it. All right. So let's keep going. Do not personally bet on your correctness, your correctness. Okay. Don't bet on it. All right. Just see what happens. Do your process and let the market play. All right. Wow. The lighting's changing a lot. the sun's going down, even though it's morning. It's just really cloudy. All right. Ultimately, the chapter dives into a point that humility, not confidence. This is the secret weapon of consistent traders. Okay. The best traders the best traders are those who can take a loss without shaking their identity. Okay. Be humble about this. All right. This is something when I started mentoring and I started, teaching and I started putting videos out there, I felt a sense of like, I have to show people that I'm actually profitable. I have to prove myself. I have, and then like my performance started to kind of hinge on my identity, right? And that shook me a little bit. And I'm like, no, man, shake that off. That's why I don't do live trading, right? Because some people can, some people can't. I'm kind of one of those who I just can't, right? I do post, like some payouts and, it does show that, I've had some good performance and whatever, right? But I'm not here to, build an identity around, look at me, I'm a good profitable trader. I want to build an identity around the fact that, guys, my trading career has been a struggle, okay? And I found a way out of the struggle, and I want to give that to others now, okay? I want to say you don't have to struggle this much. You can struggle, but let's struggle into profitability, okay? So that's where I'm at, right? But I need to be able to take a loss, especially a single loss. Now, if I start taking 5, 6 losses, I definitely start to really, really detailed journal. Like, let me look at, are these 5, 6 losses because of my strategy? Okay, it's because of my strategy, no problem. I know the win streaks come in, no big deal. All right. But did I FOMO? Did I take a few trades I shouldn't have? Okay, I took a few trades I shouldn't have. No problem. Let me just get that back under control. Okay, that's really important. Learn to do that, right? They remain neutral, focused on execution, and ready to act on the next opportunity without hesitation or revenge. All right, huge. All right, so here's a study guide. Self-reflection prompts. Do I feel I need to prove that I am right when trades go against me? Yes. Sometimes that used to be a huge struggle for me. All right. How emotionally attached am I to the outcome of a single trade? Okay, so 2 reasons for you being emotionally attached on a single trade. One, you've over traded and you're over leveraged and you've got like a huge you got everything riding on one trade, right? Your express funded account is now on the line with one single trade. Yeah, I would understand you being emotionally attached, because maybe it took you 2-3 weeks to get to that point, to get that account funded. And now you've gone in max contracts and you know either you're going to win big or lose big. Don't do that. Okay. In my opinion, don't do that. I'm not here to tell you what to do, what not to do. But in my opinion, I would look myself in the mirror and say, don't do that. Don't do that, bro. All right. Do I ever let a losing trade run because I want to be right? Okay. Continue to DCA, right? Most of the time when you're day trading, especially with prop firms, you should not be adding to a losing trade. You should have a hard cut stop, and when it hits, it hits. You leave it there. You don't move it because you're like, oh, I just know it's gonna pip me out and then go in my direction. Okay, but you need to have a logical, structural market structure, stop loss placement that you're okay if it gets hit. One of the things I do is I visualize the loss and I visualize the win. Okay, when I place a trade, and I tell myself it's okay. Either way, I'm not going to lose the account, or I'm not going to do this, or it's not going to hurt that bad if I'm wrong. And if I win, cool. I seriously try to do that. It keeps me from freaking out when I do get my stop loss hit. How many times does it hit my stop and and then like reverse? Sure, it happens. It's not a ton, because I do try to do structural stop loss placement. But how many times does it come right up on it and I'm like, oh, am I emotionally attached to this single trade? I shouldn't be. And then it goes in my direction. I'm like, phew. I still feel these things. Okay. But I journal it. I talk about it to myself. I spend a lot of time talking to myself. Very lonely person. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so practical application for day traders. So prioritize process over ego. Okay, measure your success by rule following, not wins or loss. Okay, guys, this is what smart money does. If you want to know how like super smart money people do this, that's how they do it. Okay, you want to know how an actual person who gets paid to day trade for State Street or BlackRock or any of these other places, or some kind of actual firm, trading firm, they measure success by rule following, not a win-loss ratio. Okay. Yes, you need to know your R&R and stuff like that, but you need to prioritize the process over your own ego. I would love. There's been times I've closed like 80+%. I would have loved to screenshot that and like put it out there and been like, look at me, man. Yeah, I'm practically unstoppable. I've had those runs, and you know what? They do feel good. But I don't even share like my P&L a lot of times, because in Discord, a lot of Discords do that. Like, look at my 1,000, percent trade. I used to do that, and then I realized it was feeding my ego. And then it was just like, it changed my mindset. And then I would start focusing more on my ego and wanting to be right. And then, when the losses came, that's what would get shaken, right? So I learned that. So for a long time, I wouldn't even say a thing. Like, I would hit a home run trade. I wouldn't even put a W in chat, right? Like with people, because I am involved in a Discord, and I am, like a moderator and things like that, and whatever. So I, I just don't do it. I don't feed my ego. Once in a while, usually my rule is if I share a win, I share a loss, right? And I only do that to balance my own ego and my own mindset. Okay, so embrace being wrong quickly. Okay, use stops with pride. Take a small loss and move on without an emotional baggage. Okay, if you get stopped, that's cool. Shake it. Do what you need to do. Okay, if you're a super emotional person, maybe you need to get up and like, and like flail around for a second or something, and that way it's gone. You can release the emotion, so that way your next trade isn't carrying that emotion. Okay, all right. And if not, maybe you just need to talk about it real quick, like in chat with people. That I do a lot. I have traders that I'm very connected to. I'll be like, dang, took that loss, you know, and I'll talk to them about it. So that way I don't respond emotionally to the next trade or try to immediately revenge trade. Okay. Another thing to not do is to focus on the numbers, because don't get married to what's in your account, right? Like you look up and you're like, ooh, I'm like, $7,000 in profit. And you take a loss, like, oh, now I'm 5,000 in profit. man, if I just hadn't, oh, I saw that 7 grand and now I'm at 5. Don't do that to yourself. Just keep on trucking. Okay. Don't get attached to money that's not yours. I've learned to be attached to what shows up in my bank account, not what is potentially a payout. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let go of outcome identity. Don't attach your worth to trade results. One trade does not define your skill. Okay, this is huge. We talked about it. Just, you know, don't. Trading is not your identity. It's just something you do. Okay. And it's supposed to be a system and a process that you follow. And the results are not like who you are. Okay, if you go on a losing streak, it doesn't mean you're a loser. Seriously, don't allow yourself to feel that. The markets are what they are, okay? And sometimes it just is what it is. Don't take it personal, okay? I've and we all do this. Oh, don't hit my stuff. Don't talk to the market, all right? Because it can't hear you. But when you are talking to the market, pay attention to what you're saying to it, because that might show where you have your emotional identity in trading. Okay. Because if you feel like the market's hunting you and you're trading prop firms, it's not hunting you because you're not even you're simulated trader. Okay. I do a lot. I mean, I do trade the market for real, but I do a ton of simulated trading through prop firms with express funded. An express funded account is not actually attached to the market. Market makers aren't hunting me. They don't see it. I'm at a casino playing on a screen. That's what I'm doing. It's not personally after me. But does it feel like that sometimes? Sure. But let's talk about that, right? That's me having an identity in what's going on, right? Having an emotional attachment to the market and trying to, don't let it identify you. Allow yourself to follow a process. Build your identity around that. I am a trader who follows a process and I follow it well. There you go. Rehearse neutrality. Okay, before a sessions, affirm my job is to execute, not to be right. Talk to yourself about this. Like, let this be your foundation. Okay. Build detachment muscles. Track how often you break rules trying to fix a trade and then stop. Okay. How often do you actually revenge trade? Figure that out and track it and then fix it by stopping, right? By just allowing it their stop to be hit. When you guys go through your actual journal and you do the math on how many times did you break your rules so you could revenge trade so you could be right, and you take all those losses out. I'm telling you, I've done this with several people, actually a lot of people. It's like, oh, that would make me profitable or at least very close, if not break even, right? I'm telling you, I've seen it over and over. And you know what? I have to do the same thing to myself all the time. Okay. I am not above this. Everything I'm saying, I'm not saying you're not profitable because you're not. No. I'm looking in the mirror going, there's times that I go through non profitability. And you know what? I need to go back and do this because I am getting attached to being right again. I am allowing my ambition to fuel my greed. Okay. So, action steps this week. All right. Review past trades where you didn't exit because you knew the market would turn around. Okay. We don't ever know anything. That is one thing. I mean, a lot of times I catch flack for this when I'm like, I even said it the other day in a Discord. They're asking me which prop firm, which this, which that, and I gave them a breakdown and we talked about the differences between two, trailing drawdown, static drawdown, blah, 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 blah. And then I said, you need to just pick which casino is best for you. And I had a couple people come back like, what? This is not gambling. It's not gambling when you know you can win. And, I was like, listen, I don't mean it that way, but I mean it that way. If you can't recognize that you're stepping into a casino, you're not going to be able to be a shark, and make money. And that ended up being the question was, I didn't ask, but, someone was like, well, are you profitable? They're like, well, I'm almost there. It's like, well, he's profitable. You're not, and that was not like, oh, look at me, because as soon as I do that, I'm telling you guys, I'll be on here going, oh, I had a bad few months, after flexing my ego. Actually, it was a good timing because I was able to talk about the very, very recent um, losing streak I went on and why, right? Because it was a long losing streak. I was a little sad about it, to be honest, and a little disappointed. But I just had to be like, that's human nature. Let's move on. All right. So, being wrong is a part of trading. It is not personal. This is not your identity. You're not a loser because you lose a trade. Move on. Okay. Track how often you cut trades when you hit your stop versus holding out. All right. So these are things you need to start doing in your journaling. Okay. And I'm telling you, when you guys start investing this kind of, time and effort into you and your as a trader, this is where you really get to learn yourself and learn what kind of trader you are. I was shocked when I took the greed index scaling and like answer the questions. I was like, dude, I'm like 10 out of 10 on this greed scale. But I wouldn't say I'm a greedy person. But I was allowing that ambition and it lit up every single greed point you can earn. I was like, dude. And that's when I was able to take a step back, read a little bit, look in the mirror, and now move back into profitability again. Okay. So add a journal section. Was I trying to be right or follow the plan? Simple. Okay. Simple, but very personal. Okay. This is why you need to start being comfortable with looking yourself in the face and going, I was wrong. I FOMO'd. I was wrong. I revenge traded. I was wrong and I hated that feeling, so I had to be right. I just wanted a tiny W scalper just to feel better. Write that down. Talk to yourself about it. And don't allow your identity to be built into, right and wrong. Okay? Tom says, you don't need to be right. You need to be disciplined. All right? And I have to tell myself this just as much as other people. All right? So I really hope this has been helpful. Guys, this is... there's a reason why I make these videos, and they really do speak to me. This has really been my journey, and these type of books, by these kind of people, there's a reason why they're able to write this stuff out, and I'm able to, read it and be encouraged and understand and feel it. It's because it's true. I can see all of this in myself, 100%, and I truly want other people to be profitable. I really do. And I think most people, and actually the most that I've worked with, they already know enough to be profitable. They truly do. Like you watching this video, especially if you made it this far, holy cow, you're dedicated. All right. And I'm willing to bet that you know enough to be profitable. But what gets in the way are these kinds of things, right? Ego and not willing to be wrong. It doesn't mean that you're an egotistical person, but you're allowing your identity to be, defined by how many times you're right or wrong. And don't allow it to be that way. All right. So anyway, like I said, hope this is helpful. Share it with someone if you know that they're struggling with trading. And even if you're a profitable trader, you keep these kind of things and you keep going through these books and you keep learning and practicing. It's going to keep you strong, right? It's going to keep your mind where it's supposed to be. It's going to keep your focus where it belongs. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I really wish you the best in your trading.